Rick, how are you? Thank you for joining us today.
Sarah, I'm doing great. I hope you are too.
Yeah, doing very well. I'm super excited to have you on. I know you have a lot of things happening right now, including you're actually launching a book here shortly.
Right. It's called Make the Call. It's a great book, I think. It was a book that I actually started to write as a coach at Georgia and got into it enough to realize I didn't have the right amount of time, to put into a book like that. And there's just too many balls, going at the same time. And I decided let's hold off on this thing. And then when I retired from coaching, and then even after a heart attack I had last October, I figured like if I'm going to write a book, I better write it now. It's too late.
Yeah.
But it was a lot of fun.
Okay. And so what led you to say, like, now's the time? I mean, obviously you had more time to sit down and
Right.
write the book, but what really led you to the process of writing?
The big thing was, a lot of people, they listen to what the head coach has got to say for some reason, and because of that, you have an opportunity to reach people for a lot of different reasons. And I wanted to, tell some of the stories that have happened on and off the field throughout my life, and it's mostly a memoir, but there's some flashbacks in there. But there's hopefully some good life lessons, and ultimately, I want the readers to make the call for Christ, hopefully at the end.
Yeah, and I think that's what I love about hearing about your book is, it's really going to help us. And I'm going to put myself in that category too, of just saying, like, how do we make these tough decisions? Because I
Right,
know the students I work with, they are dealing with a lot. They're trying
right,
to navigate, what am I going to do for the next 4 to 5 years as they land playing either Division 1, Division 2, Division 3 football or any other
sure.
sport. And so, how has your faith, as you've gone through some of these major life decisions, how has your faith really guided you through that?
Well, I think the big thing is when I became a believer in 1986, my goals changed dramatically. It became one goal, and that was to try to live a life that would be pleasing to God. And it was a simple goal, not necessarily easy, but it was simple. And so when it came to making decisions in life, my goal was to try to decide something that I think God would be pleased with, basically.
Yeah.
So a lot of times you'll have time. You might have a week, you might have a month, you might have 4 hours or whatever to make a decision. You may have enough time to reflect and pray about a certain decision. And I always felt like if I had peace about something, then it was time to make the decision. But sometimes you got to make a decision quick, and you hope that you're in the right frame of mind. You hope you're in the right spiritual frame of mind to make the right call. And then I've also used as a guide that sometimes after you make a decision, you have that buyer's remorse, so to speak, where you're like, maybe that wasn't such a good decision. And a lot of that depended on how I felt when I put my head on the pillow at night. You're laying there and you're thinking about what you did or what you decided. And you're like, you know what, this is not good. Because it's one thing to make a decision, it's another thing to start to live it out. And sometimes if you know darn well you made a mistake, and all it takes is a little bit of humility to say, hey, I blew it, and I'm changing my decision. I can't, but sometimes decisions are the kind you can't change. So then you got to make the best of it.
Yeah. And I think now, how our student athletes are navigating this whole recruiting process, they are making decisions daily about what that looks like for them. And
Right.
they're really kind of figure out, okay, how do I stand out in this recruiting process? How do I make these decisions? So what do you think that our student athletes now today can really do to start standing out or even help them make some of those difficult decisions?
Right. Well, the first thing I think everybody's got to understand is there's a lot of different levels of sports, in football and in particular that I deal with all the time. I mean, there's definitely Power Five schools, Group of Five schools, Division 2, Division 3, NAIA. I mean, there's all kind of different. There's prep school, junior college. I mean, so sometimes these guys think, oh, I got to play Division I or I'm not going to be happy. But it's really not true. The best thing to do is to be on a team where you have the best chance of playing, because if you don't play, it's not going to be any fun. And, so you want to get to a school where you got a chance, you have the best opportunity to play and become a leader on that football team. I know my son, John, he started out at Clemson and he was there about a year, and there was a coaching change there. And he also, after being there a year, he realized that he probably wasn't going to get a chance to play anytime soon, if ever. And so he said, Dad, I want to make a change. And I said, all right, you can make a change one time, but if you make it twice, I'm not going to back it up as much, because things get tough, you decide you want to leave. But he moved to a smaller division school, Mars Hill College, became a 4-year starter, became one of the leaders of the program, and ended up getting married in college and the whole thing. It was a great college experience for him, even though in the beginning he thought D1 was the only way to go.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think that's a lot of times parents think, oh, and students too think, well, D1's the only place that I can get scholarships. That's the only place
Right,
that financially can move me forward. And we both know, having been in the world of college athletics, that actually isn't the case.
right.
And
Well, what happened with John actually at Mars Hill was, because he got married, he was off of our tax return, so to speak. So he was an individual taxpayer and he was broke, so he got full Pell. So that helped pay for his school. So the same thing was true for his wife.
yeah, and I think when we look at it across all boards and we look at where do these students fit, because it's we want them to make the right decision. We want them to make the call that's going to fit best for their lives. And so, what is one thing when you were sitting with students in recruiting meetings that you would encourage them as they were going through this decision-making process?
Well, I think the big thing is to understand that, there's not one perfect place. It might, if you're looking for the perfect place, you're never going to find it, because it doesn't exist. And so wherever you decide to go, you need to make the best of it. You need to understand that things aren't always going to go your way, that you got to compete. And, like for my son, John, it turned out to be a good thing for him to make that move. But if you move every time something comes up that's uncomfortable, when he got to Mars Hill, things weren't perfect either. I mean, he was used to traveling a certain way, he was used to eating a certain way, he was used to training a certain way, and things were different at that level of ball. So he knew that he had to make the best of it, and he did. And so I think, once everybody understands, like even distance, like some people think you got to go far away from home to become your own man or become your own woman. But I grew up in Boca Raton, Florida, went to the University of Miami, which was like an hour down the road. But I can promise you, my mom and dad didn't show up to campus every day and get in the way of me being independent. But it
Right.
was nice that I could, on occasion, bring a load of laundry back home and get a nice meal. So
Right.
I had the best of both worlds. But some guys think you got to go across the country. I've seen so many more guys come back home from a decision they decided to go cross country than leave a school that was close to home and go further away. I've never really seen guys do that. They usually migrate back to
That's
where
right.
family is.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, you've talked about like making those tough decisions, like things aren't always going to be perfect when you land. And that was your story as a college
Oh yeah,
athlete. When you landed at Miami, like you expected to be the starter.
the man. Oh yeah,
Right.
I was going to start as a freshman and be All-American my second year, and win the Heisman my third year, to go pro after that. And then this guy named Jim Kelly showed up in my same class, and he started living my life. So
Right.
I did a lot of learning the hard way. But I actually went to my Coach Schnellenberger, and said one spring that I'm transferring out of there. And because I thought there was no hope. And talking about making decisions, he said, well, if you change your mind, let me know, because it was just that time of year there was time. So I started to live out that decision for about a week. And I didn't feel good about it. I'm like, I didn't come here to quit. I'm going to battle. There's two things I can control. That's my attitude and my effort. So I'm going to do the very best I can and have a good attitude about it. And if things break my way, great. But if they don't, I'm willing to live with that. So I think it was the best decision I made for me. I never did win the starting job while Jim was playing there, at least while he was healthy. One time he got hurt and I started a few games, but I grew up. I didn't get my way all the time. I had to battle through, tough times, and it helped me grow as a person, helped me grow as a man.
Well, and then that actually didn't stop for you either. Like you continue to experience that in the
Oh
NFL as
yeah.
well.
Well, yeah, I thought I was going to get drafted, which I didn't. Became a free agent. Went to the Denver Broncos, and the day I signed my contract, there was a news flash on the television. John Elway had just been traded from the Colts to the Denver Broncos. So I tried to get out of that contract, which I couldn't. It was too late. So I lasted about a week in camp before they cut me, and then tried a few odd jobs and actually was running cars at a valet at the Boca Raton Hotel and Club. And, you do a lot of running if you want to make money. And I realized I was in the best shape of my life. I said, I got to try out one more time, and called my agent. He basically said he didn't want to represent me anymore because I was costing him money. So he fired me. So I got a buddy of mine who wanted to be an agent. He actually wrote all the NFL teams, and the Dolphins picked me up. So I remember being in the locker room, seeing my number 9 in the locker room. They had my high school and college number in there, but 4 numbers down, number 13 had Marino in that. So I had Jim Kelly, John Elway, Dan Marino ahead of me. And I always like to say I was the 4th best quarterback in the world at the time. Nobody knew but me and my mom.
That's it. That's awesome. But I think like that just shows when we think about our student athletes and they're thinking, I want to make a quick decision. I'm ready to transfer.
Right.
If like, oh, the Division I school is not offering me, so now I'm just not going to play.
Right.
That in itself, as we look at this, what are some things students can do as they go through this decision-making process, or even how can parents encourage their student as they hit all these
Right.
roadblocks?
Yeah. Well, again, I don't think college sports is for everybody, but if there's a burning desire to do that, then there's a way. It might be even as a walk-on in a program. I mean, I've been coaching. I coached 35 years in college, and I can't tell you how many walk-ons either eventually earned scholarships and ended up playing in the NFL, or just had the life lessons and the life experience of being on that team, and the association with that team paid huge dividends down the road in the business world. I mean, no one plays sports forever. And really, it's an opportunity to, get your education paid for and still do the thing you love. But in the end, you got to make a living doing something else. Even the greatest NFL players, a lot of those careers last 2, 3, 4 years. And then they got the rest of their life. They got to do something else. So, use it as a stepping stone, but not as, you're going to live and die on whether or not you get that scholarship or not, or whether you play pro sports.
Yeah, and I think that's such a just wise words of wisdom there, because when students are thinking, oh, I'm going to take it to the next level, the statistics actually show that only 7% of high school athletes altogether play college sports. But then it even takes that one step further. Only 1% end up taking their sport pro.
Right. I mean, it's tough. I mean, I've seen so many great players that didn't make it for whatever reason. And one of the things you can't control is injury. So you might be a first-round draft pick, potentially get hurt, get to the point where you're not what you used to be. And, you hate to say it, but once you don't have that skill level anymore, then the NFL doesn't have a need for you anymore. But I could say this, all the things that I did as a player, all the things that I learned as a quarterback, I thought all those things were preparing me to play in the NFL. But as God had it, he was preparing me to be a coach. And so all that time was redeemed in the end. I stayed at Miami under Howard Schnellenberger, who brought the Miami Dolphins system to college football. That system allowed me to move up in the coaching ranks because I had the knowledge that a lot of people didn't have, never experienced. So even though I didn't play, I was a good student of the game. I learned everything I could. And in the end, it blessed me in my coaching career.
Well, and that's really and truly, as you were making that transition into coaching, landed you at Florida State
Right.
as a GA.
A graduate assistant coach at
Yeah.
Florida State, no doubt. And, Coach Bowden recruited me out of high school, Coach Bobby Bowden. And, but I played at Miami, or at least I was on the team at Miami, the Hurricanes, a rival. Miami and Florida State rivalry was crazy back in those days. And me knowing what I knew from the Miami system and going to Florida State, I never would have got that graduate assistantship if I didn't stick it out, at Miami and have the knowledge that Mike could help Florida State down the road.
Yeah. Which is saying, that's part of my story too, is I grew up in a really small town and, looking at what were the advantages of playing sports in college. No one really played women's soccer from our little small town. And,
Right.
I had a chance to play at a junior college. And what happened there was it really taught me of taking that to the next level, working in college athletics, coaching a high school soccer team. And I think that's really truly what you're sharing as well, is all of these moments and all of these things that happen, they are going to have an impact on your life long term.
Right. It's just, we got to take advantage of every day. We got to be thankful for them to begin with. But, we honor God, in my opinion, by doing the best we can. Colossians 3:23 is a life verse of mine. It says, whatever you do you work heartily unto the Lord. HEARTILY means, I'll say this. I think too many people worry too much about what does God want me to do? What does God want me to do? Well, I think he is more worried about not so much what we do, but how we do it and who we do it for. So the verse says, whatever you do. So it doesn't say, hey, you have to be this or that. It's like, whatever you do your work the best you can and do it unto me, meaning God, rather than men. And the thing about that part of the scripture is, if your accountability is to God, we know he sees it all. If our accountability is just to man, then, when the boss isn't watching, what are you going to do? Slack around because someone's not watching you. Well, if you truly love God and want to honor him, you're going to live in such a way that he'll be pleased.
Yeah. And that's so true. And that's in everything that we do. And that's something, with our students when they are going to class and they're taking that exam or they're preparing for that next level, even athletically, is truly seeking after the Lord and doing it for him.
Yeah. That's what it's all about. Because in the end, and I can vouch for that because I was just moments away from death. And when I had that heart attack, there's only one thing that's going to be important at that moment. And that's where are you going?
That's right.
And I had peace and I knew where I was going and it was a good place. So I'm thankful for that.
Yeah. Well, Coach, our podcast is called Confessions for the Sidelines. And since that's the name of the podcast, what is your favorite memory of standing on the sidelines?
My favorite memory was, don't want to get too carried away with this, but at Miami year 2, we played Notre Dame at home. And they were ranked real high, and we were undefeated at the time, and people were still doubting us, and we just beat the brakes off those guys really bad. And my son John is usually up in the booth, but we were beating him so bad that he could leave the booth in the middle of the fourth quarter and come down to the sideline. So it was just a moment when me and him got to enjoy that victory together on the sideline.
Oh, that's awesome. Such a great memory. Well, Coach, thank you so much for being here, sharing about everything. And, I want to make sure that our listeners know where they can pick up your book. So where is the best place for them to grab that?
Well, there's a website, makethecallbook.com, all one word, makethecallbook.com. Or just Amazon, you could find it there too. So it comes out August 31st, but you can pre-order today.
Perfect. Well, we will be sure to link all of that in the show notes for everybody. And Coach Richt,
Great.
thank you so much for being here with us today.
All right, Sarah. Have a good day.